The James Show Podcast.
Yeah, I know happy applause to start off the show today. It's another sour note. And in this one, I just want you to know, this is on purpose. I am not saying this guy's name. And I'm not going to tell what other people who are behind microphones should and should not do. But we've had this conversation many times about these mass killers that you can't explain other than they're just psychopaths, right? And really, let's talk about that. That's why this disturbs you so much. That's why this story grabs your attention. But we've had like 10 homicides here in Dallas in July. None of them you really feel like keeping up with. But I can explain that, and you probably know this intuitively if you don't say it out loud. But this mass murdering psycho in Idaho, he's going away for life 4 times over. But you're not bothered by other crimes. You're bothered by this one because it's so random. You're not bothered by the drive-by shooting over some gang beef, over turf, because you're not in the thug life. You don't have to worry about that. Your kids aren't in it. No one's going to come up to your daughter's driveway and spray bullets into her birthday party. Why? That doesn't happen where you live. That couldn't happen. You hadn't gone around making drug dealers mad. You're not bothered by the gas station bandits. Earlier this week, there were 2 guys that knocked over 3 gas stations in a row. But it was way down in the not-so-pleasant Grove area. That's really far from you. That probably happens all the time down there. We don't have to worry about it. I can go to the gas station. Plus, I'm not out going to those gas stations with bulletproof glass at 2 in the morning anyway. You're not bothered when you turn on the news and you see the husband-wife murder-suicide. Because you didn't marry a psycho, I assume. And even if you did, you're getting along pretty good. It's not going to kill you. You're not bothered when you turn on the news and you see the idiots that killed themselves street racing at 3 in the morning on 121. Why? Number one, you're not in the street racing gang. You don't think Fast and Furious is a documentary to live your life by. And you're not out at 3 in the morning again. You can avoid so many of these other scary stories, but there's nothing you can do to avoid this. You can't explain this one away. You can't tell yourself, oh, well, that only happens to other people. That can't happen to me. This is so random and so unforeseen and doesn't fit any pattern. And the reason you're scared of that is you can't prepare for it. That's why this story bothers you. That's why cases like this bother you. And here we are. What did this happen 3 years ago? He was already found guilty. Now he's been sentenced. No motive. You still don't know the motive. I don't know the motive either. And you can tell the judge is kind of shook. You know, judges are human beings. And when they see the blank stare where it looks like the animatronic shark from Jaws, like that's what his eyes look like in court today. Just nothing back there. Just straight up absence of humanity. You can tell the judge was a little shook.
I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society.
The victim's sister, she's throwing some words at him, but I got bad news. This doesn't bother him. Your insults don't bother him. He's a psychopath. If anything, he'd probably find some sort of joy in the fact that he's continuing to inflict pain on his fellow human beings. That's what he gets off on. But here's the victim's sister saying some sad words.
The scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because...
Sorry, I thought that was clean. All right, my fault. You got it, Garrett? Good. Sorry about that. Heartbreaking stuff. What you have here is something that you can't rationalize in your head. That's why it bothers you. What do you do to avoid a psycho that just follows you home from some public event? How do you stop that? How do you be safe? You go to sleep with a gun under your pillow, someone shows up in your bedroom in the middle of the night and just start shooting, you can't defend against that. Would you have to live in a fortress? How do you do that when there's 6 roommates in the same building? Maybe if you can live in a fortress, your kids have to go out. They have to live in this world. You worried about them? Of course you are. So maybe some solace we can take away from this horrible story about the Idaho mass murderer who just got 4 life sentences is how do we lessen this? We live in a fallen world. There's going to be psychopaths. Some people are born this way. Some people are abused as kids and become psychopaths. We can't prevent them. How can we at least minimize this? What can we do to sort of reduce the incentive for this to happen in the future? Because first you have to establish, why does he like doing this? I don't know. Does he like the publicity? Because if so, then no one needs to be saying his name. I mean, I understand news people are kind of exempt from that, but commentators and opinion people like me should never say this guy's name. I haven't said it today. I'm not going to say it. The other thing we can do is, instead of taking away a carrot, we can use a bigger stick. I think we have a moral obligation to kill people like this. I think if we know we have a psychopath, if we know we have a killer, and we know he's there's just no motive. He just wanted to light a match and watch the world burn and inflict as much pain on his fellow human as possible. He's admitted to it. There's no doubt to his guilt. I think we have to start killing these guys. What about publicly? And it captivates the news. And I'm trying to explain to you why. Because you can't explain this one away. You can't escape this. Your kids can't escape. You can't shield your kids from this. They weren't rolled up in the gang war. They weren't caught in a toxic relationship with an unhinged person. They weren't drug addicts. They weren't on the wrong side of town. They weren't thieves. They just seemed like good and ordinary people doing the right thing, and still they were victimized by this monster. And so my theory on why is this mass killing story so captivating, not just you, but the media. MSNBC's talking about it. Fox News is talking about it. Everyone is in between talking about it. Our news partner WFAA is going to mention it on tonight's news, even though this happened in Idaho. And I'll tell you what makes it so scary. You can't prepare for this. You can't explain this away. Here's what you can do. There's other psychos out there who's seeing all the attention this guy's getting. Be like, hey, I would like to hurt a lot of people, and I would like to have everyone know my name. That'd be great. I hate everybody anyway. Maybe I'll try that. So, number 1, let's stop saying his name. Number 2, let's make a mockery of this guy. Public execution. I'll say it again. Like, he's just saying sensational. So that's just his job. He's supposed to say crazy things on the radio. So we listen. I am serious. Can we discuss this? Because we used to do public executions in this country. Was the murder rate higher or lower when we had public executions? In fact, we used to do public executions for all of human history up until about the time you were born. Was the crime rate higher or lower? Did you get a better result? Do you not want to do it just because it's ugly? Because it's gross? Because it feels icky? Was that a good enough reason to not do it? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Kevin, North Richland Hills. You're on WBAP.
Yes, sir. You took the words right out of my mouth. And this just doesn't deal with the guy that killed all the people. This deals with MS-13 and all the other three gangs. Just take them out and shoot them in the head. That's what they need to do, and that would be a big deterring factor. But, anyway.
So there's 2 opinions there. You want it to be public, and you want it to be with a gunshot to the head.
I don't know if it has to be public. I'm not going to tell you what. Well, yeah, I will. My 90-year-old dad, he said he'd have public hangings and have him out there hanging so everybody can see. And I said, Dad, they can't do that.
Well, I don't think that's an incidental variable we're looking at. I think one of the things that will make it effective is specifically if it is public. If it's not public, then it's out of sight, out of mind. No one has to deal with it. But if everyone has to look at it, Just like we have to look at every George Floyd type crime up and down for years on end. You know, we got to examine what's going on here. We should examine. We should all be a little more transparent in what happens to criminals or people who do bad things to innocent people.
There you go, young man. So anyway.
All right. Well, Kevin's on board. Kevin in North Richland Hills. He's okay with public executions. I am too. Where do you stand? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, of course, in almost 23 years I've been doing talk radio, I'm going to get an email or I'm going to get a Facebook message from some guy saying, here's what we got to do. We got to do what they did on Braveheart, where you rip his guts out and then you quarter him with 4 horses. They all walk in opposite directions. We don't have to get medieval on people. All right. I'm not advocating torture or anything, not even cruel and unusual. But for all of human history, up until about the time you were born, not only did it happen, it was normal. And unless you live way out in the country, city folks, they got to see this. Not all the time, not every day. It was rare, but it happened. They all have stories. You read history. You've read history books. They all have stories about, oh, there's a guy hanging from a tree, or he was found guilty in front of a jury of his peers, and when judge hits a gavel, they took him out to the town square, and boom, everyone happened. And then they had a festival after that. A bunch of people were, I don't know, playing fiddle or something. It used to be, I don't want to say the most normal thing in the world, but a reliable, consistent factor of fighting crime in society, in our society, in your society, right here where you're sitting. You know, I've looked into a lot of these stories. Like in Waco, there was some activists that came up and they're like, this is the 100th anniversary of the lynching of Jesse Washington. I was like, oh no, did the Ku Klux Klan or some racist people lynch a black kid out of racism? No, there was a black kid who raped and murdered his boss's wife, and he took the cops back to the crime scene, and he explained that, this is where I raped her, and they didn't know that he had raped her. They just found her dead body, and so he had confessed to both crimes. He went to court. They slammed the gavel. So he was even found guilty in a court of law. And then right after that, the mob takes him out of court, and they go hang him. Now, that seems to be extrajudicial. I don't think he got his full complement of appeals, and that's wrong. And, whatever due process we all deserve, it should happen. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't like it's portrayed. It used to be the people of your town were so disgusted by these people that they couldn't be stopped in punishing someone. And they waited until he was found guilty. I'm not saying they never made mistakes, but it's not like it's portrayed. 800-288-9227. This is Marcia and Kaufman. You're on WBAP.
Hello there. I think there's 2 schools of thought regarding public executions. Right now, I don't know that it would have such a deterrent effect on the younger generation, because they've become so desensitized to violence and horror that I don't know that it would really bother them. They'd probably look at it and say, oh, well, cool.
Are you kidding? These people are scared by pronouns.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I have grandsons, and I know how they go with their games and everything, and it's all this violence. And you watch television, you go to movies, and you're seeing violence everywhere. I don't know that they would be that affected by it.
Look, I've got 4 young kids, and they all play video games to some degree. And yeah, they do see a lot of violent stuff, but this is not what they're seeing in the real world. And they're pretty good at putting distance between what's on video games and movies and the real world. They live in a world where they're scared to take peanut butter to school. They're scared by crossing the street. A lot of them are scared to drive. Have you heard this new trend of 16-year-olds who aren't getting their driver's license immediately? They just have no interest. That's just something adults do. I
hadn't heard that, but thank you. I'm just pulling up to my druggist. I just want to put my 2 cents there.
Good deal, Marcia. Thanks for calling in. Go get your drugs. Yep. This is Marcellus in Arlington. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James. I got a little bit of a different opinion. I think as I became more and more pro-life, and I maybe started analyzing my views on the death penalty and things like that, I have to believe that, people can be redeemed. And I don't think we have a right to take, any life. I think it's a different situation if, you are doing that to protect someone in the moment. But, after the fact, lock them up, consequences, certainly. But, I think that's, I think more for...
Well, we have data on that. It's been tried. Like, they tried in California. They stopped doing the death penalty. Did it help? Did it make society better? Did it reduce human suffering?
No, but also, I don't think, the death penalty is going to reduce it either, because it's not really attacking the problem at the root.
I hear you. Jennifer Rockwall, you're on WBAP.
Hi. Regarding the execution, in the Bible, God says, send them to me. I'll take care of them. Plus, if the military can execute people for treason, then that's good enough for me.
Well, a backstop I like to use is, what did the Founding Fathers say? Because,
Right.
How did the Founding Fathers feel about drug prohibition? They didn't prohibit drugs. How do they feel about public execution? George Washington, if he found a spy, would string him up on the spot and hang him. And I know that's in a time of war or whatever, but they weren't squeamish about executions or public executions. And that's a relatively new phenomenon. Your great-grandparents most definitely, or probably, I should say, saw one. For some of you, your grandparents saw one. I don't think my grandparents ever saw a hanging. My parents definitely didn't. I certainly haven't. But it is only up until the last few decades that we stopped with this whole public execution thing. The last person that was killed by guillotine in France, I think that was in like the 70s, wasn't it? All right, I got a Googling to do. Thank you very much, Jennifer Rockwall. Mm-hmm. Thanks for calling in. This is JW in McKinney. You're on WBAP. What's up, JW?
Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that last comment you made. When do you think the last public execution was in the United States?
No, I was saying the guillotine execution in France.
Okay. When do you think the last execution was publicly in the United States was?
Man, I don't know. I would guess. I don't know. What counts as publicly? Where like
public state sanctioned execution.
Yeah. Oh, state sanctioned, because there's a lot where people got dragged out of the courthouse and hung in the 10s and the 20s and the.
Not those ones. I'm talking about a state sanctioned public execution, like the ones you want to bring back.
I really don't know.
About 88 years. So that was the last one that was done in the United States. I believe it was in Missouri. So almost 90 years ago is the last one. I like public, or I like executions. Okay, if you did the crime and if you got convicted by a jury and you got sentenced to that, all for it. I think you're missing a good point here, and I don't think you're looking at it the right way.
Help me.
These monsters that are psychopaths that enjoy inflicting pain on people and killing people and all this kind of stuff, don't you think that they'd enjoy that much more if they were killed in public and sensationalize it more and more so they can inflict more crap on people's eyes that have to watch it or maybe inattentionally watch it? They would love that. How about all these people that want to die by cop, in public?
Yeah, but they like the idea of people being scared of them. Ha ha, they're a big monster. And so that puts them in a position of power over these people. But if the whole world sees them with their hands tied behind the back, they're on their knees and they're getting bent over some stump, and here comes the axe that's about to behead them, that's not something that they hold in like glorious esteem. I don't think they would enjoy that. And I
think they would.
I Googled it, JW, the last guillotine execution in France, 1977.
Okay. I didn't know about France. I just knew about the United States. But here's the thing: these people that are psychopaths like that, they're not afraid to die in public. In fact, I think they would enjoy it more. And I think that you would have people that would see this that shouldn't or didn't want to. Internet, whatever, kids, children don't need to be seeing that stuff. And I think if you make it public,
it would inspire more.
Well, it wouldn't.
I can see that.
No, I just don't want kids to see that kind of thing. People that don't choose to see it might get it popped up on their phone somewhere in their social media or somewhere. I don't want my child seeing a public execution. I don't want that to happen. I think they should be killed in a hole someplace in front of a few select people that are invited to watch, maybe like friends, family, victims, stuff like that. So I think we should just keep doing it like that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we do now. And I don't know, does that seem to be working?
Because you know what? I believe in the death penalty. I believe in the death penalty if it's conclusive by DNA evidence or undisputable witnesses. So as long as it fits that criteria, and if it's the state that allows the execution, I'm all for it. I'm an eye for an eye guy.
So that's not too much different than what we have now, but you're making some good points. How do we keep kids from seeing it, especially the kids of parents who don't want them to see it? That's a great point. I think that's a good point.
If you make it public, they're going to see it somewhere or the other, my friend.
I don't know. I can keep my kids from seeing a lot of things that are public.
Do your friends have a cell phone?
Yeah,
they can see everything that's public.
Yeah, up until they're like 13 or 14. My 9-year-old doesn't have a cell phone. She doesn't get to see all that. But no, you bring up some great points. You're a great addition to the show. Thank you for calling JW in McKinney. Now, my next guest is a regular guest. You've heard him on the James Show many times, Jeremy Rosenthal. Let's not say his name. That's kind of the rule I'm having on the James Show. So if you could just say the killer or that guy or the psycho or whatever, let's not actually say his name. But welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Welcome. How are you?
Doing okay. I mean, sometimes we have a nice, fun, bright segment to talk about, but we've sort of delved into a dark part of the legal history here, and that's dealing with public executions. My last caller was bringing up a good point. Do you know when the last public execution was? Well, the last one that was state-sanctioned and legal and not like a lynch squad or anything, August 14th, 1936. And I don't really have an explanation on why we stopped doing that. Do you have any background on that, Jeremy Rosenthal?
My guess would be the Eighth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, cruel and unusual punishment. That would be the argument I would make if they wanted to do that to one of my clients. The death penalty has been something that it's vacillated throughout time. It has waned and it has ebbed and it has been popular and it has been drawn back and drawn down. Donald Trump and his team on the federal level have pledged to be a little more active. Joe Biden on his last day in office pardoned, or he commuted in his last week in office, rather, 39 death row inmates to life in prison. So I think it's something that obviously draws a lot of strong opinions in every way. But if I was to be a betting man, I would say it's the Eighth Amendment is why we don't have public executions any longer.
So why didn't this guy get the death penalty? Was that part of a plea deal?
That was part of a plea deal. And this is what, listen, and I'm a criminal defense lawyer, James. It's what I do. It's what I love. I'm a defense lawyer all day, every day. This is one of the hard things about being a prosecutor, especially an elected one, because you have to make judgment calls that are like this. He has 4 victims and their families, which means moms and dads and aunts and brothers and cousins and sisters and all of these people. And you have to take the consensus of that group, which means you're going to disappoint and upset people. I think that the DA, in this case, I think he made ultimately the decision that the majority of the victims in this instance want closure. They want to be done. They don't want to have to sit through a trial. They don't want to have to see pictures of their loved ones splashed all over the courtroom. So I think that's probably why he made the decision that it was, and that's why he's the elected official. That's why he makes the big bucks, if you will.
Well, I can see the incentive for the county because they would have to spend a whole bunch of money for the guy that's just going to end up in jail anyway. So, I mean, I guess if there's any solace for this, saving the taxpayers some money, but there's a lot of us, myself included, sure would like to see this guy dead.
This is certainly a strong argument in favor of capital punishment, this case. Very gruesome murders, no real explanation and motive. Still to this day, we're gonna. The judge in the case has lifted a gag order that's really existed since the beginning of this case. After the plea, now that the plea is done, I know that police and prosecutors have pledged to sort of open their file a little bit here and give the public and give the media a little bit of a look in here. But even now in open court, the DA and the families still can't agree on any kind of motive. And we don't know why this happened. Not that there's any good reason why it happened, but we still don't know what was going through that man's mind.
That's scary.
So yeah, it's terrifying. And maybe we'll learn Ted Bundy style in the years and decades that follow. Even if this guy does give an explanation, are we going to believe it? Or maybe we take it with a grain of salt, or maybe we put it in some kind of study of some sort that helps us understand a little more about what's going on here. But yeah, very tragic and very scary.
All right, with Jeremy Rosenthal, you can find him at TexasDefenseFirm.com. Thank you very much for another great legal analysis segment on The James Show.
Thanks, James. Have a great day.
All right, moving over to the phones here. Here's Brad in Little Elm. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Brad?
Well, I think 100% on public executions. And one couple of steps further. One, I just want to get your thoughts on maybe making them pay-per-view. That's the first thing. Second,
well, hang on. You say that as a joke, but I don't take it as a joke because that addresses JW earlier, who was saying, how do we make sure children don't see this? And if you put it behind a paywall, that not only raises money, for our criminal justice system and lessens the burdens on the taxpayers, but also creates a barrier for unprying eyes or whatever eyes.
Yeah. Second item is I think you need to go back to where in this case, and I've been watching this case closely, it would be nice for the victim of the family of the victim to have some say in this guy's demise. For example, if I were the parent of one of these guys, I would love to see this guy buried up to his head and stand at low tide and watch him suffer.
Well, we don't have to do that. But I think if you get like a legit regular execution style, I like the justice, the feeling of justice. If the victim's families, like if it's going to be a firing squad, they get to pull the trigger. If he's going to be hanged, like the mother of the victim or the wife of the victim can kick the stool out from under him. I get where you're going with that. Let's just not get as cruel and Byzantine as burying him up to his neck. All right, psychos, tap the brakes. I get we're all a little emotional after this story. 800-288-9227. Brian Adams bringing his tour to American Airlines Center November 13th. Special guests Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. Get tickets and information at livenation.com, or you can try and win a pair of tickets from us. Text Adams. If you want to go see Brian Adams, text Adams to 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, more calls on the specter of public executions in the wake of the Idaho mass murder verdict. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.